Hello, Bloomington. I'm Mayor Tim Busse, and this is the Council Minute for the week of March 22nd. For the past several months, I've provided regular updates on the progress of an important planning process for the future of our community, the Park System Master Plan. This week, we discussed a framework for that plan and looked at a benchmarking study of park systems in comparable communities. But before we get going deeper into what we discussed this week, I think it's always good to start at the beginning. Why are we doing this in the first place? Long before starting this planning process, we consistently heard through resident surveys that parks, open spaces, and trails are among the most valued reasons for living in Bloomington, and that residents would support investments that improve these really important amenities. The Park System Master Plan is a roadmap for planning and completing park improvements, for helping the city plan capital improvements, and to ensure changes and investments to the park system that fit into the bigger picture of serving the needs of the community today and for future generations. Our staff and consulting team have been working with the City Council and the Parks, Arts and Recreation Commission to study a whole host of factors in planning what the future of Bloomington's parks, natural resources, amenities, and programs will look like. We've studied local and national park and rec trends, community demographics, facility needs, current and future programming needs, and parks maintenance. We've looked into these factors through two really important strategic lenses: equity and sustainability. And most importantly, despite the pandemic, staff has worked very hard and very creatively to gather input and ideas and feedback from the entire Bloomington community. And frankly, we've learned quite a bit. Things like our parks are homogeneous. In other words, they were designed and built with a kind of cookie-cutter approach. And not surprisingly, our recreation facilities are now outdated. We learned that our parks and recreation amenities, designed and built many decades ago, don't match current resident demographics and recreation needs. And finally, new facilities are needed for current residents and for attracting new residents to the city. This week, the team working on the plan laid out a beginning framework for making new investments in our parks, using service areas defined largely by council districts. There are 4 districts that thoughtfully create geographic balance of park amenities and an equitable park system across Bloomington. That notion of equity is really important as we move forward. At a City Council meeting in January, staff introduced the scope and objectives for the equity section of the Park System Master Plan. This week, staff took that one step further, presenting an equity prioritization tool for capital investments that was very well received by the Council. The other important piece of our discussion this week was around the results of a benchmarking survey. The survey identified metrics that we can use to compare Bloomington's parks against park and rec agencies in other cities that are similar in population, physical park size, and our National Recreation and Park Association Gold Medal Award recipients. So basically, we're benchmarking against some very good park systems. We want to evaluate how Bloomington Parks and Recreation is positioned compared to similar park and rec programs across the country in terms of both efficiency in facilities, operations, budget, and capital investments. The benchmark assessment describes each community's approach, both the philosophy and the operations of their park and rec system, but the survey doesn't say that Bloomington's park and recreations should move in a certain direction. But it lets us look at the best practices from award-winning agencies and to compare those practices to how Bloomington operates our parks and recreation system. The report will be included in the final plan, and data from the report will be used as a reference to guide final recommendations when the Council adopts and begins implementing the Park System Master Plan. The Bloomington Ice Garden, or BIG, as it is affectionately referred to by thousands of skaters, has been a center of community in Bloomington for more than 50 years. BIG was originally opened with 1 sheet of ice in 1970, rink number 2 opened in 1975, and rink number 3 opened in 1993. BIG rents over 9,000 ice hours every year and hosts more than 24 tournaments and figure skating events, making it one of the busiest facilities in the entire state of hockey. The Ice Garden is home to Jefferson boys and girls hockey teams, Kennedy boys hockey team, the Figure Skating Club of Bloomington, and BAHA, the Bloomington Amateur Hockey Association. It's not a stretch at all to say that 3 generations of kids in Bloomington have grown up at BIG. And many of those kids have become grown-ups who coach, teach, or who still skate in adult leagues. As BIG has grown and aged, a lot of functional and operational challenges have grown and aged along with it. Last fall, we started an overall building assessment to study options for modernizing that facility. The assessment included architectural, mechanical, and electrical systems, ice systems and equipment, and of course, cost estimates. The results of the study will be incorporated into a project to update and improve one of the most historic ice arenas in the state. There are two urgent issues that have to be addressed in the next couple of years. First, the roof at BIG is scheduled for replacement in 2022 in our capital improvement plan. That in itself is a good-sized project. But in addition to that, the refrigeration system needs to be replaced. The refrigeration system is powered by a refrigerant known as R22. R22 has been phased out nationally due to the fact that it contributes to the depletion of the ozone layer. As of last year, the production and importing of R22 has been banned. So refrigerant that has been recovered, recycled, or reclaimed is being allowed to service existing systems like we have at BIG, but what that means is that in a very short time frame, supply will become so scarce that the cost will increase exponentially. The modernization of BIG would also update many major mechanical systems and address ADA accessibility challenges with the facility, including elevators to get guests to viewing areas for all 3 sheets of ice, and accessibility to older locker rooms and to restrooms between rinks 2 and 3. Beyond those base project needs, the assessment looked at several options based on input from user groups and consideration of current and future trends in hockey, skating, and other ice activities, as well as improvements to the visitor experience, security, and concessions. 4 options were presented to the council. Big improvements come with a big price tag. The base option of building and systems upgrades is estimated to be about $12.5 million. Staff will be bringing the BIG project back for discussion in May so the council can discuss funding options and a preferred alternative. The council has previously directed staff to prepare a request to the state of Minnesota for state bonding dollars for the project. We'll look at other options as well if the state funding doesn't come through in the next couple of years. Of course, I'll provide updates back to you as we have those conversations about one of Bloomington's most beloved centers of community. Over the past couple of months, I've provided updates to you on the work that our advisory boards and commissions are doing. This is the time of year when those groups come before the City Council to highlight the work they did in 2020 and to lay out their work plan for the coming year. This week, we heard from our Creative Placemaking Commission. This commission is relatively unique to Bloomington. In fact, when it was created about 7 years ago, it was believed to be the first of its kind in the country, putting arts and artists at the center of community and development. The Creative Placemaking Commission is a collaborative effort with Artistry, Bloomington's largest arts organization. The commission members are appointed by the City Council and the Artistry Board, and they provide advice to the Council on how to incorporate arts, design, culture, and creativity throughout our community. One of the unique things about the work of this commission is that it's mostly focused on the South Loop area. That's an area that includes all of Bloomington east of Cedar Avenue to where the Minnesota River Valley Wildlife Refuge is located, and it includes the area around the Mall of America. The reason for that is that the funding for their projects doesn't come from property taxes. It comes from a dedicated revenue stream of liquor and hotel taxes that can only be spent in that area. The Creative Placemaking Commission regularly references our South Loop Creative Placemaking Plan, which was approved by the City Council in 2015. With the plan as a guide, commissioners and staff from the City of Bloomington and Artistry worked together on a visioning workshop in 2020 to determine what they wanted to accomplish in the next 3 years. On that list of outcomes, it includes a safe and accessible mobility hub, welcoming and thriving green spaces, intentional and equitable engagement of stakeholders, grand and colorful places to plan, cohesive and distinct wayfinding, and walkable and engaging urban amenities. For its part, the City Council has expressed a desire for the past couple of years to find a way to expand the reach of the Creative Placemaking Commission across the city. The Council will be discussing ways to fund that work. As demonstrated by a recent economic impact study, the arts and creative workers are an economic engine in the City of Bloomington, stimulating more than $12 million a year to the local economy. Having places in our community that are unique, inviting, and attractive with art and artists at its center is another way that shows why Bloomington is so special. Well, that's a wrap on this week's Council Minute. I hope to see you again next week. Until then, stay safe, Bloomington.